This podcast was written and created by Avi Melamed, Middle East intelligence analyst and founder of the Inside the Middle East Institute.
Usually, when we analyze international border crossings, we tend to look at policy documents, right? Or economic data or migration quotas.
Yeah, we look for a bureaucratic logic. We try to map human movement on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. But then a situation like the mass migration of Moroccans into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta happens, and, well, that spreadsheet completely shatters.
It really does.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we are looking at a recent and frankly sobering analysis by Avi Melamed regarding these Ceuta crossings.
Right, and rather than just focusing on a strict timeline of events, Melamed structures his analysis around two crucial pillars.
Which is what we'll be doing for you today. We're going to analyze the systemic drivers forcing this desperation, and then the deeply fractured debate it has triggered across the Arab world.
Right, and Avi Melamed starts his analysis with a really stark question that swept across Arabic social media right after the crossing. Basically, what drives a person to flee their homeland without even taking a bag?
No personal belongings at all.
None. And the consensus in the regional discourse offers a pretty grim explanation.
Yeah, I mean, we are looking at entrenched corruption, systemic unemployment, failing public services, and an absence of basic personal freedoms in many Muslim-majority nations.
Exactly. It is a massive structural failure affecting a very specific demographic. The data bears that out, too.
Because the vast majority of these migrants, both legal and undocumented, are young men.
Right, usually between 16 and 30. For them, looking at the numbers, Western Europe is perceived as the only mathematically viable option for a future.
It essentially functions as a desperate, high-stakes gamble where the collateral is human life.
Yeah.
To really illustrate this, Avi Melamed pulls a quote from Lebanese columnist Samir Attallah.
That quote is striking.
It is. Attallah describes thousands attempting to cross the sea in fragile rubber boats, fully aware they might drown, simply because the alternative of staying home is, somehow worse.
And that image, the fragile rubber boat, is critical. But what Melamed points out as truly revealing is how different observers look at that exact same boat and see entirely different geopolitical phenomena.
Right. The reaction across Arab and Muslim commentary isn't unified at all.
Not at all. It's deeply polarized based on their own ideological anxieties.
So let's unpack those ideological lenses as Melamed outlines them. You have a religious interpretation from Turkish politician Yasin Aktay.
Right. He views the migration as a spiritual risk, arguing that Western societies just don't have the conditions for Muslims to fully practice their faith.
But then there is the sheer economic calculus. Egyptian writer Ahmed Abdel Wahab looks at the situation and sees a demographic transaction.
Right, because aging Western populations mathematically require young migrants for low-cost labor just to prop up their failing pension systems.
Which is a very stark contrast to the security lens of Yemeni columnist Ali al-Bukaiti.
Exactly. Al-Bukaiti advocates for stricter Western immigration policies because he views this influx as a destabilizing force.
And finally, you have voices like Iraqi columnist Khaled al-Qushtani. He argues the West is deliberately engineering a massive brain drain, to siphon off the Arab world's brightest minds.
Right.
But I need to push back on this synthesis for a moment. Looking at the viewpoints Avi Melamed compiled, there's a glaring contradiction here.
How so?
Well, how can this mass movement simultaneously be a devastating loss of the Arab world's brightest minds, like al-Qushtani claims, while also just serving as low-cost labor to fund Western pensions, as Abdel Wahab argues? I mean, those mechanisms contradict each other.
Well, that contradiction is actually the central point. The commentators are projecting their own regional insecurities onto the migrants.
Ah, I see.
The reality is that the migrants represent a wide spectrum of skills and education levels. But the fact that Arab intellectuals cannot agree on whether these young men are irreplaceable geniuses or just cheap labor, it highlights a profound crisis of identity and governance within the region itself.
That makes sense. And this fractured discourse also bleeds into the immediate political fallout. There were rampant rumors that the Moroccan government deliberately orchestrated the Ceuta mass crossing as a geopolitical pressure tactic.
Right, but Avi Melamed includes the perspective of Tunisian columnist Adel Al-Hamadi, who firmly rejects that theory in the analysis.
He argues that investigators should instead look for unseen political actors who benefit from damaging Morocco's international reputation, right?
Yes, although he does admit there is no concrete evidence to back this up.
And, when we get bogged down in these high-level theories about unseen political actors and demographic shifts, It is entirely too easy for us to forget the actual people in the water.
Yes. He very deliberately shifts away from the macro-political landscape to tell the story of Fayen Ben Amer El-Aziz.
She was a Moroccan football player.
Yes.
She drowned while attempting to swim towards Soda. And her death really strips away all the geopolitical posturing we just discussed.
It forces us to confront the core thesis here. You have the immense scale of structural economic drivers colliding with profound individual tragedy. Fayen's story is not an anomaly. It is the inevitable result of this systemic failure.
Which leaves you, as the listener, with a complex paradox to consider. If Western economies mathematically require this migrant labor to sustain their aging systems, but political borders remain rigidly guarded...
And regional economies continue to stagnate.
Exactly. How long can this global tension persist before the entire system simply fractures?
This podcast is made possible by supporters like you. ITME is an independent nonprofit institute committed to apolitical, intelligence-based Middle East education.
To learn more, or to support our work, visit our website www.insidethemiddle-east.com.